Hey everyone, I'm live from South Ozone Park here. I'm in Queens, and we're at the intersection of Lefferts and Liberty. So that's the end of the A train right there. And this is because A train ends here. So in that direction is Brooklyn. That direction is Brooklyn as well. And in this direction here is JFK Airport. This is Lefferts Boulevard. And this direction here is actually Nassau County. So we're actually doing my Goodfellas tour right now virtually. So let me know where you're joining from. And we're walking right now along Liberty Avenue. As I mentioned before, Lefferts and Liberty is pretty much the main intersection in South Ozone Park. And we're going to 120th. So we're actually going to turn on 120th. Lefferts Boulevard pretty much replaces 119th Street here in South Ozone Park. So right now we're passing a Walgreens. There's some chain restaurants here, but I'd like you to look across the street. Okay, so Joy's joining us. Richie, Sam, and Howard Beach. Richie, Howard Beach, have you been to South Ozone Park? The answer is probably yes. Okay, so Joy, you say I sound great? Okay, so right now, this is some of the Indian dress shops that you're gonna see along this street. Basically, this is Little Guyana right now. So this continues all the way up to the 130s. This is 120. There are a ton, not literally a ton, but you're gonna see as this tour continues, you're gonna see a lot of Guyanese bakeries. And Guyana, for those of you who aren't familiar, that's the only English-speaking country in South America. Central America has Belize, South America has Guyana. So Richie, where's your dentist? I'd love to hear. This is a halal food truck. You'll see a lot of halal food in this area. So while Liberty and Lefferts, which we just passed, Liberty and Lefferts are actually mostly commercial. This is a strictly residential street. 100, Teresa of Ozone Park, thank you for this. Teresa, thank you for joining. I'm really happy to have everyone with me today. San Diego, so we got Deborah joining for San Diego, thank you. I really appreciate all your support. It's nice to get people beyond the Northeast joining because the majority of my followers are in the Northeast, and definitely looking to expand that. Let me know how the sound is. We have Nick joining us from Montreal. So right now we have Joy joining us from the Lower East Side, San Diego, Howard Beach, Richie, 103rd and Lefferts. Okay. By the way, are you Goodfellas fans or are you just New York fans? Lovers of all things New York, or are you here for the Goodfellas stuff? Because we're going to visit a handful of Goodfellas spots today. And, okay, Teresa, sounds perfect. Yes. So, I want to mention that this street here is mostly residential. This is not, whoever's Richie from Howard Beach. I want to mention, Richie will back me up on this one. This is not what most of New York City looks like. These single family homes here are more common the farther you get from Manhattan. So we're actually not far from Nassau County, which is Long Island. Joy wants to know about food. That's because Joy's a chef. If you go to Go Vegan NYC on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, that's Joy's latest project. So yes, Nassau County is that way. And then JFK Airport is that way. And then if you want to look behind us, that's basically Brooklyn. And then also, I guess the river would be up there. Deborah lived in Woodhaven, so that's great. My Goodfellas tour, when I'm actually able to do it, my Goodfellas tour ends in Woodhaven. So my tour basically starts in Brooklyn, ends in Queens. Hi, Mineola, I believe that's in Long Island. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Thomas Giordano. Giordano, just like the pizza in Chicago, a city that I don't get to visit nearly often enough. So even in the winter, you see a lot of people in the street here, but not nearly as much as you would on Lefferts Boulevard. So again, this is a more, if there is such a thing, quiet residential street. And in the summertime, I want everybody from Queens, if you could back me up on this. In the summertime, you would see a lot of people on this street barbecuing in their front yard. Yeah, there you go, right there. There's a barbecue, probably gets used in the winter. It's not unrealistic. So I'm not at Nears tonight. I'm actually just doing a virtual tour right now. So what we're doing right now is we're crossing 120th and then 107th. And something about this part of Queens, the avenues, actually, they're skipping the even numbers. So you're going to see that we're going to go right from 107 to 109 to 111. So I'm not really sure. I didn't lay this city out. It was here long before me. But that's, it could be very confusing. And then when you get closer to JFK, if you're from Howard Beach, you're probably familiar with Don Pepe in South Ozone Park, down like about a mile north of the JFK lot. That's like 149th Ave to 135th. There's nothing in between from what I remember. So I will not be at Nears tonight. I want to do a separate J train section of this tour virtually, but I'm trying to do everything today. I'm trying to do everything within walking distance. So fortunately, Ozone Park, South Ozone Park in particular, has the most stops as far as being all within close proximity. So I'm basically starting at the end of the A train, walking south and then walking back north. So Howard Beach is also pretty much a neighborhood to the south. Richie, that would be great. Nears is a great place. Richie, do you go there often? Because if you follow me on Facebook, you could see the days that I'm actually doing the tour. And my tour actually ends at Nears. So I'm kind of doing this because I haven't been able to do nearly as many tours as I typically like to. So I just wanted to connect with followers and people that are fans of the movie, which actually turned 30 last year. So Richie, you're a Goodfellas, you're at Nears very often. So yeah, I had a professional photo shoot there back in 2018, about 5 months after I started doing the Goodfellas tour. So, Richie, I would love it if you could stay with me the whole time and then tell me if I missed anything. Because I live on the Lower East Side, but I do have friends in this neighborhood. But, you know, I'm not an Ozone Park local. So, and Richie, I have in the past, at the end of the tour, Richie, sometimes people say, where is a nearby Italian restaurant? And Richie, I've taken people to restaurants in Howard Beach at the end of my tour. I took the J train to St. Michael's High School and then Forest Parkway to Broad Street for 13 years to work on Wall Street. Okay, yes, so on my tour, we actually take the Q10 bus up to Jamaica Avenue, and then the end of the tour is along the J. So I'm familiar with what you're talking about, Deborah. And Richie, Lenny's Clam Bar, Bruno, Mateo's, I've been to all those places. So if there's a place I haven't tried yet in Howard Beach, feel free to let me know, because I personally think nowadays, at least, Howard Beach is the third Little Italy. You know, because Corona's only got a couple places left. Bensonhurst is very spread out. So your wife went to St. Michael's, Richie. Yeah, Richie, I think Howard Beach is kind of the third Little Italy. Like I said, I've been to a few of the restaurants there. And then there's a pastry shop. The name's escaping me, but I've had the cannoli there. New Park Pizza. We're not far from any of those things. But Howard Beach, unlike South Ozone Park, Howard Beach is not as subway accessible. So that's one thing to consider. So, okay, here's our first stop, everyone. So this is our first stop. Right here, does everybody remember the scene in Goodfellas where Stax gets whacked? It happened in this basement. So if you ever do my tour, think you hit them all. You do know neighborhoods. Yeah, Richie, I'm actually a travel writer, so I've written about, primarily the Northeast, like New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore, but I've also written about Seattle, St. Louis, and some other places. So we're just gonna, this is a private driveway, but I do want to mention the scene with Stax. I don't know where it was filmed. I was hoping somebody that would join that could chime in on that. I don't know Scorsese personally, don't know where it was filmed, but this basement right here, when Stax was killed, the killers, I don't know if it was who it was in the movie. There's no way of knowing that, but the murderers would have walked down here, they would have walked through this door, and they would have walked down and Basically, Stax would have been hiding down here. He would have been hiding in this basement, and that's where the shots would have been fired, and chances are the guys would have just taken off. So again, I just want to show you, this is 120th Street. And thanks for telling me I know neighborhoods, Richie. We have Avnish joining us from Pennsylvania, another Northeast guy. So Avnish, if you've seen Goodfellas, we're on 120th Street in South Ozone Park, and we're at the house where Stack, played by a younger Samuel L. Jackson, we're at the house where he was murdered in the movie. Again, I don't know where this took place in real life, but that's where we are right now. So I'm going to flip the camera, and we're going to continue, and you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about as far as the streets here in South Ozone Park, because we just passed 109th Avenue, and I believe up here is going to be 111th. So, Richie, did you always live in Howard Beach? I'm curious. New Park Pizza. What else? If you could tell me the name of the pastry shop, I would love to know, because the name's escaping me. So, okay. And by the way, I like to ask every now and then. I'm mic'd up because it gets kind of noisy on Lefferts Boulevard. If everybody could let me know if I sound okay. So there's single family homes on this side. Grew up in Glendale. Okay. So I think, Richie, you could tell me if I'm wrong. I think a lot of people that settled in Ozone Park back when this stuff would have been taking place at the movie. La Torre, yes, La Torre, definitely. Okay, so I gave you 5 places I've eaten at in Howard Beach. So we talked about Bruno, Matteo, Lenny's Clam Bar, Torre, and New Park. So if you have any other suggestions, Richie, that would be great. Kelly from Carlisle, Pennsylvania says sound is great. So Kelly, we're on a Goodfellas tour. This is a condensed Ozone Park version. There's also stops in Woodhaven, Richmond Hill, East New York, Brooklyn. Now, all you New York people, have you been to East New York? I would like to know that. Nick says I sound perfect. Thank you. So right now we're at the intersection of 120th and 111th. So this is getting closer. We're actually walking towards JFK Airport right now. So if anybody's into roti shops, you're going to see some on this street. There's also pizza, but my understanding of Ozone Park nowadays is rooftop on Vetro. Okay, yeah, maybe next time I'll go there. One nice thing about Howard Beach compared to the rest of New York is a lot of these restaurants have private parking lots. Like I love Don Pepe in South Ozone Park, but they don't have private parking. And sometimes it could be difficult to park there. I mean, there's a grocery store nearby, but you're really not supposed to do that. So right now we're coming back up on Lefferts. And right around the corner, here's Cleaners. There's a divorce lawyer. If anybody here needs a divorce, you could go there. So has anybody been to East New York? Because that's actually where this story starts in a lot of ways. A lot of people in Ozone Park came here from East New York. At least that's my understanding. So right now we're at a very popular roti shop. And this is more common in Manhattan and Brooklyn. But you see here, this is Trin City Roti. Trying to turn this around. This place here, even during the pandemic, has people outside the door. So there's a barber shop across the street. And if you ever want to try this place, the intersection is 111th and Lefferts. So right now we're going to keep walking. We're going to keep walking right now. And you can see what I mean. It gets very loud. That's a public school, PS 100. Did anybody go here? Or does anybody know anyone who went to PS 100? I'm curious. Okay, so East New York is where this story starts because Henry Hill's boyhood home is on Pine Street off the Euclid Avenue stop in East New York. So roti is better in Brooklyn. Okay, Susan, then you have to tell me where. Because our tour starts in Gowanus or Carroll Gardens. I don't know what it is officially, but our tour starts in Carroll Gardens. Then it goes to East New York. And like I said, East New York has 2 of the key stops because the cab stand was there. Presto Pizza was on Pitkin Avenue. The cab stand was on Pine Street. Henry's boyhood home was on Pine Street. The boyhood home looks old, but it's still standing. And one thing that I don't understand about the movie is that he says they never parked in our driveway, but there is no driveway at that house in Pine Street. So the street is a lot of single family homes. And again, Susan, I'm still waiting for your Rochi recommendation. So there's a lot of halal bakeries on Liberty. Now there are some on Lefferts, but Liberty is the main thoroughfare for those. So we actually have 2 places to go yet. I think Adam Shefflin used to hang out in East New York for artistic inspiration. Okay, so we have Ami joining us from Washington, D.C. Flatbush area, good. I have a friend there, part of the travel community. The Roti on the corner of Rutland and Flatlands. Okay, so Kelly used to come to Brownsville, East New York. If anybody's been to Brownsville or East New York, Kelly used to go there for her job. So she knows the area a little bit. I don't think she comes here anymore since the pandemic, but I do understand Flatbush would have a lot of great roti. I'm going to ask my friend. So right now, this is another big intersection in Brooklyn. This is Linden and Lefferts Boulevards. Moose 1032, yes, this is South Ozone Park. If you really want to get technical, if you mail something to this address, you'd be mailing it to South Ozone Park. Ozone Park is kind of northwest of us. So we're crossing the street. If you're from New York, you know that Key Food is everywhere. And Moose 1032, if you want to tell us where you're joining from. Right now, I know we have people from California, Pennsylvania, New York, Washington, D.C., mostly Americans, because the Goodfellas tour is most popular among Americans. I will say that I do another Ramones punk rock tour, and that's more popular among people from Latin America and the UK. But this one here is mostly Americans and Canadians with some Brits, some people from the UK. There's always, like, I've had, I kind of take pride. You're from Los Angeles, so we have somebody from San Diego joining us as well, Moose. So thank you for joining. And by the way, if you look across the street here, we're getting close. We're getting closer to JFK and Rockaway Boulevard. So if you look across the street, I know it's really sunny. 11385 Ridgewood. Okay, that's what Jimmy's house looks like in real life. If I'm to believe the address I got, this is not the street. Jimmy's house is in real Ozone Park. It's in Ozone Park, not South Ozone Park. But those kind of houses in this area are common. So we're going to keep walking, and we're going to be next at one of the key stops. So Ramon's tour would be cool to see. Rock on Rockaway Beach. Right, so, okay, so you saw them at Forest Hills High School. Deborah, right now, since my Ramones tour is a walking tour, right now we're only doing stops in Manhattan. So we start at 53rd and 3rd, like the song, and then we end down on the Bowery. So we're walking along, and there's actually 3 important stops right in this intersection. So Goodfellas, it's one of my favorite movies. Yes, I actually had I believe he was a parole officer from Cairo on this tour, and he wore a fedora. He was a some kind of parole officer from Cairo, Egypt, and he wore a fedora. If you search hashtag Goodfellas NYC tour, you'll actually see a picture of Muhammad wearing a fedora in front of the cab stand, which again is on Pine Street in East New York. So right now, this is an important stop here. This is GT Kingston, and if you go to Instagram.com/Brian May Romer, search hashtag Goodfellas NYC tour, you're going to actually see this, GT Kingston. You're going to see pictures of this because this was Robert's Lounge. I'm going to actually walk up to it, and this is actually nowadays a karaoke bar. But my understanding is the Lufthansa heist was actually planned in the basement of this bar. So we're going to go down here. This is the entrance, and you see it's open until 4 a.m. This is a Guyanese and Jamaican restaurant. I know the guy joining us from Howard Beach will tell you, this neighborhood is probably the largest Guyanese community in North America. I can't be 100% sure, but I'm going to guess that it is. So basically, if you're not familiar with the food, It's more or less a combination of Chinese, Indian, and then Caribbean food. So there's the Q10 bus, which would come from JFK Airport. So I'm going to stand here real quick and just go over a few things that pertain to this stop. So, okay, you could see somewhat the stop here. And this is where the heist would have been planned, the Lufthansa heist. And what would have happened is right down on the other side of this, down there about 2 miles is JFK Airport. So right down there is where they stole a lot of stuff from. In the movie, they shoot near LaGuardia, but in reality, they actually did this stuff near JFK. I've read Henry Hill's books and things like that, and I've never actually heard of them doing anything at LaGuardia. They grew up in East New York and then, moved to Queens because we don't realize how Brooklyn is very close. East New York is the next Brooklyn neighborhood from here, or Cypress Hills, depending on how you go. But anyway, this was a dive bar. And what happened is a lot of cargo workers, they used to come here. And there was gambling that would go on, especially in the basement. The shooting of Spider took place in the basement, which was played by Michael Imperioli in the movie. So what happened was they had Michael Imperioli played Spider, and Joe Pesci was asking him for a drink. He didn't bring the drink fast enough, and he ended up getting shot in the foot. Then he got cocky the week later and ended up getting shot fatally. So that would have happened here, and Henry also referred to this place as Jimmy's Private Cemetery. So just to give you a kind of an idea of what went on here, there was a lot of gambling. The heist was planned here. Now, my understanding is after the heist, they would stop hanging out here so much because surveillance was just too much for them to handle. And also, things really fell apart after that. You see in the movie where everybody starts disappearing. And that was really their downfall, the biggest heist in American history at the time. But, they were too greedy. It's amazing that, they were able to pull that off. But right here, people would gamble. They would get into debt. And they say, hey, you owe me $10,000, $20,000. That's more than you make in a year. How are you going to pay me? And then the answer would often be, there's a shipment of Dior dresses coming, and the Dior dresses are coming at 3 o'clock in the morning. This is who's working security. This is how much he wants to keep his mouth shut, and boom, the dresses would be gone. So I want to show you the next thing, because we're going to actually walk past Roberts again after this. Right here, according to Henry Hill, at the corner of Lefferts and 115th Avenue, that's where Tommy's mother lived. So right here is the corner of 115th and Lefferts Boulevard. So again, I want to check in. How's my sound? If I sound okay. Kelly, do I sound okay? This is where they go late at night to get a shovel. Tommy says, we're going to go to my mother's house and get a shovel. And this is where they would have gone. You could see there's a driveway here. But if that happened in real life and they had to go to his mother's house, it would have been here. Now, the intersection of 115 and Lefferts has 4 corners. But you can see here, this is a municipal building. This is a liquor store. It looks very commercial. And that's not a house. Even if she lived there, those are apartments, not a house. This is a commercial building. So by process of elimination, this house with the trampoline, this has to be where it was, if you're to believe Henry. So all clear on audio, great. And I just want to point out, supposedly Tommy also had an apartment at the top of Robert's Lounge. That's according to Jimmy. So this would have been, again, where his mother lived. And we're going to cross the street right now because I want to ask everybody, does anybody remember the scene where Maury, the wig man, gets killed? They tell him we're going to go for Danish. And they say, where are we going to go for Danish? And they say, oh, let's go to the diner on Rockaway Boulevard. I want to walk everyone down here because this is the Rockaway Boulevard that they're talking about. I have no idea what diner that would have been, but I could tell you for sure that this is the Rockaway Boulevard. It's a more commercial street. It's kind of similar to Lefferts Boulevard. It's not as hectic as Liberty Avenue, only because on Liberty Avenue there's a elevated A train running all the way to the end, And another interesting fact about New York is the A train actually branches off. So you got one that goes to Rockaway Beach, which I'm sure the Ramones fans joining me would like. There's one that goes to Rockaway Beach, and then there's another one that ends here about a mile north, maybe less than a mile north on Lefferts. So we're coming up on the intersection of Rockaway and Lefferts. And here's a pharmacy. You see, again, we're gonna cross the street here actually, and we're gonna take a look at GT Kingston from the other side. I believe the diner in Goodfellas was. I know the actual Goodfellas diner in Maspeth, Queens burned down, but not to the ground. The shell's still there, and it's more or less a parking lot now. Okay, so that's the Q10 bus. And we actually used, by the way, this Q10 bus on the tour. Yes, Goodfellas diner in Maspeth. It used to be the Clinton diner for everyone. I'm really happy when New Yorkers join, because you could fact check me. I'm fairly young, I like to think. So, for example, I was born not long after the Lufthansa heist happened, so I didn't live through these things. But there's still definitely an appetite for this with the tour. So again, here we go, more halal food. And then there's West Indian American food. A lot of West Indian things in this area. So I'm gonna stop past one of the more interesting stops. Again, this kind of food is common all in this area, but I want to show you something that's not very common, which is Chinese Trinidad food. I've never eaten in this place, but I vow to one day. And this is Auntie Chunky's Island Roti Shop. And I've heard a lot of great things about Chinese Trinidad food. Unfortunately, I haven't tried it because there's so many restaurants in this area. I just haven't had a chance to go to this one yet. I am gonna put my mask on, and we're just gonna walk a little bit closer and just take a closer look. Susan, very common in Trinidad. Yes, unfortunately in New York though, it's not. Even though we have a pretty large population from Trinidad here, the Chinese mix is not necessarily there. So if the camera's not steady, I'm putting my mask on because I'm gonna actually walk up to the entrance. And another plus, which is very rare, is you could actually park at this place. You can see there's even spots open, which is really nice. So we could take a look at a few of the dishes. It looks like they have different specials every day. Yeah, I'm not actually that familiar with Trinidad food. Many Chinese, I've never been to Trinidad, but it's somewhere I would like to go. And you can see this is common in New York, restaurant parking only. And they have hot doubles. You see, I don't even know what any of this is, to be honest. I'm happy to show you. But we have aloo pie, catering, aloo pie, faux lorry, rote, Trini doubles. Kelly talks about Trini doubles. Okay, I'm glad Kelly knows more than I do about this, because again, this from where I stay in New York, this is kind of far away. So when I come down here, it's usually for the tour, and a lot of times at the end of the tour, we end in Woodhaven, which I know a couple of you have been there or are from there. We end in Woodhaven, and then I'm in Manhattan, so it's very easy for me to just get on the J and go back. Once in a while, guests, Trinidad food is amazing. Doubles are a vegetarian delight. Perfect, Ami, you're a vegetarian. So, okay, from across the street, we're gonna actually walk back up. And this is supposedly Tommy's mother's house over there. We're gonna cross here, and then we're gonna take a look from across the street at where we just were. So if anybody has a favorite Goodfellas scene, let me know what it is. I could try to shed some light on it. And if you ever do my tour, we'll have a much more comprehensive picture of the movie, because we would visit another 4 neighborhoods. We would also visit 2 neighborhoods in Brooklyn and 2 more in Queens. So yeah, so again, from across the street, you could see GT Kingston, which was the karaoke lounge and bar. So that's GT Kingston, and again, that's where the heist was planned. That was Jimmy's Social Club, and you can see there's apartments above it. Now, I don't know about any of you. Did any of you actually ever live above a karaoke bar? Because it doesn't sound like a lot of fun. I should get you on a Trinidad fam. Yeah, I've already mentioned, I'm a travel writer, and Ami, if you could do that, that would be great. I've only been in the Caribbean to the Dominican Republic, pretty much, and the Bahamas. Those are the only 2 countries I've actually been to in the Caribbean. So that's a place I definitely like to visit. I do know someone from the travel community from there, but it's just, travelers are always talking about where they're going to go, and you can't do it all. I did the tour in September 2019. Sarah Scott, I believe you're joining from Oregon. Is that right? Sarah joined from Oregon. And I think I have that correct. And yes, she joined the tour. And Sarah, do you remember some of this? Because this is the neighborhood we spend the most time in on the tour. We have a lot of New York people joining us, actually, which is great. We have someone from Howard Beach, which I believe today Howard Beach should be the most Italian neighborhood in Queens now. We got a Little Italy in Lower Manhattan. We have a Little Italy in the Bronx. Staten Island is probably the most Italian borough. Brooklyn, you still have remnants of it in Bensonhurst, but I would say in Queens, Howard Beach has, there's a section of Cross Bay Boulevard in Howard Beach, which is not far from here. Kelly, have you been to Trinidad? I know I'm bouncing around here. Kelly, if you've been to Trinidad, I'd love to know. Okay, so we were talking about Howard Beach. There's a section of Cross Bay Boulevard. It starts with Mateo's and goes a few blocks down, and pretty much there's large Italian restaurants, often with valet parking, on that stretch of Cross Bay. So Sarah, I do remember it. I will definitely do the tour again as well when COVID makes travel to New York easier. So Sarah, an interesting fact, my last guests on this tour, Sarah, actually were from another part of Oregon. I don't remember the city, but my last group I had on this tour were also from Oregon. As I mentioned before, this is mostly Americans and Canadians that do this tour. I do get some Brits and people from other parts of the UK, but this is definitely American-centric tour. Kelly has Trini friends. Yeah, I have not too many, but I don't know much about the country, but over the years I have had a couple of friends from that country. So somewhere I'd like to visit. Ami's making it sound exciting. And by the way, we're back up. I'm just on the other side of Lefferts Boulevard. Sarah should remember we actually took the A train all the way to the end. And then at the end, we got out, and then we pretty much started the walk that we're doing right now. So again, I want to thank everybody for joining. So basically, just to sum it up, we visited the house that Stax got whacked in. We visited the old Roberts Lounge. We saw where Tommy's mother lived. And then we also saw Rockaway Boulevard, the apartments above the bar. And like I said, this is the most important neighborhood, in my opinion, to that story, after East New York. My favorite part is where Henry and Karen walk through the kitchen. Okay, so the Copacabana's long gone, but as far as the Copacabana goes, it's long gone. But the thing is, that was probably filmed somewhere else, most likely. So, and I just want to say something. Sarah mentioned COVID earlier. I would say normally, a lot of these places, just so you know, I'm going to turn the camera to myself real quick. So since COVID, yeah, Kelly, you should watch it again and then come do the tour. So I want to say since COVID, New York's lost at least 1,000 restaurants. And across the street here, you could see that right here. I love that scene, yes. But by the way, most people that knew him said that that would have never happened. He was not nearly important enough to be escorted through the Copacabana like that. So there is a little bit of creative license there. If you want to hear somebody that knew Henry Hill at least well enough to talk about him on YouTube, look up Michael Francis. He says basically that Henry and Karen never looked so good. And he says that he was a sad drunk in real life. And if you actually research Henry's life after the arrest, which happened in Nassau County in a town called Rockville Center, if you actually look into that, you'll see he led a pretty sad life. by the time Goodfellas came out, he was already out of the witness protection program. He was, arrested a few times for drugs conspiracy, and that movie really makes him look a lot better than he was. Hello from Bangladesh. Hey, MD Hassan joining us from Bangladesh. Now that's one country I've never had a guest. I've never had a guest from Bangladesh or Bangladesh on the Ramones or the Goodfellas tour. Yeah, Teresa. I just want to recommend his children, Gina and Greg, actually wrote books. They don't use those names anymore, but they wrote books about it, and they talk about in Rockville Center when they were kids. Orgies and parties where they would, the Karen, Henry, and their friends would snort cocaine off of Gina's Miss Piggy mirror, and it's a very sad story. And that movie shows him in the best possible light, which isn't really saying much. But yeah, after the witness protection program, he got relocated so many times, and he just kept messing up until eventually, things just reached a point where he was kicked out of the program somewhere in the mid-'80s, so at least 5 years, probably around when the actual book was released. Because if you really want to hear neighborhoods and stuff, I tell everybody if they book my tour, read the book first. At least read the book, because that actually says neighborhoods. That actually says East New York, Brownsville, Ozone Park, Rockville Center. You could actually, thanks to I'm dating myself here, Google Maps nowadays. I'm sure MapQuest is still around, but thanks to Google Maps, you could actually punch these places in and see that East New York and Ozone Park are very close to each other. Rockville Center is a little out, but yeah, we're gonna actually continue walking now. By the way, we're in front of Public School 100, so the New York people joining me, I'd love to know what high school you went to. Pamela, thank you for the compliment. Pamela from Mechanicsburg, who taught me how to cook Indian food. Thank you, Pamela. So Pamela, there's a lot of roti shops here. And I'm curious, Pamela, have you ever had this Trinidad version of roti? And if it's any different, I would love to know. Because Pamela taught me if you actually... Hey, we have Kenny joining us from Scotland. Hey, Kenny. I've had one or two Scottish guests on this tour. They're always fun. Okay. Yeah, good Jamaican food around Brownsville. Yes, so... Brownsville would be west of East New York. Henry grew up in a corner of East New York that's very residential, not so many apartment buildings, and it was in real life. There was a cab stand across the street, that's true, because the story is not, again, it's a movie. So, and Brownsville, Larry King is from Brownsville. Willie Randolph, the former New York Met. Willie Randolph's from Brownsville. Mike Tyson is also from Brownsville. And then you have members of the Wu-Tang Clan. I believe U-God is definitely from Brownsville. Possibly the Jizza as well, the Genius. So, Christ the King. Okay, and I believe Larry King passed away recently, but he was originally from Brownsville. Okay, so we're coming up on the end now. Questions now would be a great time to ask. So we basically started on Lefferts and Liberty. We walked east, south, and now we're walking back up to the north. And this is where we get closer to the elevated A train, which we would have seen earlier. So Wu-Tang is forever. Yeah, I'm a fan of their first 2, maybe 3 albums. Not too crazy about the later ones. But Kelly, there's Wu-Tang Cultural District in Staten Island. I believe I posted a picture of it. Kelly, we're friends on Facebook. Just look up my Staten Island album on Facebook and you can actually see a picture of it. So, yeah, not all the Wu-Tang guys are from Staten Island. They may have eventually ended up there, but there are at least a few that are from probably Brownsville, East New York, that area. So, same area that Henry's from. We don't talk about Pauly much here. We more so focus on Pauly when we get to... We more so focus on Pauly part in East New York, because that's kind of the most important area for him. So right now, I am going to say goodbye. Thank you for all your questions. I will bring this to YouTube later on. So thank you everyone for joining. And again, You could book this on Airbnb. Just look up Goodfellas NYC tour. I'm still able to do the tour if you're able to get to New York. And I really appreciate everyone joining. So I just want to say thank you, everyone. And I'll see you. I'll be posting my next Facebook Live. Please like my Facebook page, facebook.com/BrianMayRome. Go to imayrome.com/signup. That's imayrome.com/signup. You can get on my email list, and you'll be the first to know when I'm going to go live again. So just want to say thank you again. Have a great Sunday. Bye.